I'm Jacqueline Yelch from the Pueblo of Isleta. I'm president of the New Mexico Tribal Indian Child Welfare Consortium. NMTIC represents the 19 New Mexico Pueblos, 2 Apache nations, Rama Navajo, and Isleta del Sur in El Paso, Texas. We are tribal ICWA representatives who are on the ground working diligently to preserve the culture, traditions, and identities of all Indian children. New Mexico's 23 tribal nations have the sovereign rights, powers, and laws to handle matters involving their members, including their ability to protect the health, safety, and welfare of their children. Tribes are the experts in their community. The need and development of the Indian Family Protection Act is centered on the lived experiences of Indian children and families previously or currently in the state system. IFPA safeguards our children's right to be our tribal leaders in years to come, whether they are a traditional healer, a governor, a mother. They are our future leaders.
House Bill 135 is really a bill that we've been working on over the last years. It's been a result of the input from tribal leaders, tribal ICWA workers, advocates, and impacted families, and they all came together to craft this bill, the Indian Family Protection Act. Native families, historically and today, have been broken up and separated. This was done first through federal policies and then through inept state practices. The Indian Family Protection Act will prioritize Native children staying with their families and within tribal communities. The 8 Northern Pueblo Council has passed a resolution in support of House Bill 135. In addition to that, the Navajo Nation has provided a letter of support as well. During the Indian Day, the Pueblo Council of Governors Chairman in his message to this body stated that this has been an issue that APCG has contributed to and supports.
My name is Donalyn Saraceno. I am from the Pueblo of ACOMA. More importantly, I am a mother, an auntie mama, a grandmother. And it is in this space, as a proud Pueblo woman, that I am before you today. Indian Family Protection Act is much needed and vital piece of legislation that will raise the bar on child welfare practice in New Mexico. Former governor of the Pueblo of ACOMA, Kurt Riley, stated the ultimate goal of the Indian Child Welfare Act and of the Indian Family Protection Act is to provide an opportunity for a child to become recognized and rooted in their identity as a member of a larger family, their Native people.
I was 11 years old when I was separated from my mom. I felt unsafe, lost, and unprotected. I began to express these feelings through my behavior and was soon pushed into treatment facilities and heavy medication that simply were not working. It was years later through a COFD social worker that I was able to reconnect with my grandfather and be reunited with my mother. My grandfather is an amazing medicine man that is helping me find myself. My grandfather is teaching me real ways of healing. Our children deserve to be whole, to be loved and protected in ways that only our tribes know how.
My name is Philip A. Perez, former governor and current councilman of the Pueblo of Nambe. The Federal Indian Child Welfare Act was enacted to protect the best interests of Indian children and to promote the stability of our tribes, our customs, and traditions. What we are witnessing take place at the Supreme Court threatens who we are as tribal people and undermines our tribal sovereignty. The premise of the State Indian Family Protection Act is based on the lived experience of our frontline tribal workers and their desire to not only codify federal ICWA, but to go beyond it.
I am part of the Diné Nation. Removing and separating Indigenous children from their communities is not something of the past. These practices continue in today's child welfare systems. The Indian Family Protection Act matters because it upholds the distinct political status of tribes to reclaim and regenerate healthy children that carry on their Indigenous core values, culture, and language that have sustained their communities for time immemorial.
Yat a she'eya klarsasal inshe tohane nishle ashihi bashishin torich ini dashanele nakedene and dashache. My name is Clarissa Salt. I am a Diné mother. IFPA matters to me because of my children and for all Native children. My niece was in a non-Native foster home. We did not know her language, her culture, or the teachings. After a 4-year battle, we were blessed to have her back with us. She is now full of life, laughter, love, innocence, and beauty. It is important for all our Native children to know who they are and where they come from.
My name is Angel Charley, and I'm a citizen of the Pueblo of Laguna and come here today as a mother, an auntie, and a person whose own family has been impacted by system separation. The placement of Indian children for far too long has not looked to our tribes nor our tribal families. The coalition is currently working on a project to engage Indian resource families, the New Mexico IFPA Consortium, and current and former tribal leadership to understand the recruitment and retention needs of Indian foster families when engaging with CYFD. At long last, it is time to destroy a legacy of Indian child removals by the state.
My name is Christian Redbird. My tribes are Cheyenne, Arapaho, Kiowa, and Mexican. I was taken from my family by CYFD. Although I'm grateful I was cared for in the foster home, I felt so lost being separated from my siblings and my parents. I feel this would have been prevented if our placement was approved by my tribal affiliations. I was afraid, wondering when I would see my family again. Our state should allow extended family members or tribal affiliations to work with CYFD. They deserve to receive safe care in an environment that carries a heritage similar to their own.
My name is Joseph M. Talachy. I was originally born with the name Archie Edward Stahlhofen. I'm the biological son of Angie Villarreal, a Pueblo POJOAQUE tribal member. I'm the biological brother of 4 other siblings older than me who are not as fortunate as me, having been placed in homes outside of the Pueblo POJOAQUE. They were adopted out prior to the passage of the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act. We're an endangered culture that will be depleted to nothing within just a few generations if we do not do something about it. My question to you as lawmakers is, would it not be diligent to carry a legacy of lawmakers of healing the historical trauma by giving our children a chance to stay within their biologically familiar Pueblo or tribe, rather than adopting a passive and cynical view of a close to extinct culture? I ask what your legacy will be. Will you choose to make a difference in the lives of Native children?
My name is MALISHA TOLEDO. I am a mother and a student. I am from the Pueblos of JEMEZ and TESUQUE. IFPA is important to me because it brought my daughter home. It's real and it gives me hope. It keeps a child in their family's extended custody rather than adoption outside of their tradition, language, and tribes. From the first time I've heard of IFPA only being federally recognized, it was a conflict with jurisdiction in my custody battle, which still stands.
Yat bene not ane dana limigi doshik a doshidine, she a Candace Littlefoot doshidine. Je donna a senjikin initial do, kintichi bajichin, sedej, gushi dashiche do, touching dashinella, akut ego dene sando magnishle. My name is Candace Littlefoot. I'm a member of the Dene tribe and I'm a mother. We know the importance of keeping our children safe and within their homes and communities to flourish and grow. We also recognize the years and practice of systemic racism. State IFPA will hold the state accountable when an Indian child is in their custody and ultimately provides the tribal nations the opportunity to protect their children in multiple ways.
My name is Cynthia Shavers. As a child welfare veteran of 25 years, as a former foster parent, as a social worker, as a daughter, mother, auntie, and as a proud enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe, I understand the importance of keeping children connected to their families and their communities. During times when family separation is necessary in order to protect a child, it is especially tragic when that child is further isolated by being placed in a home they are not familiar with. Our children are sacred and deserve their special place in our communities.
My name is Jerica Salazar. Indian Family Protection Act matters to me because I could have benefited from it. I was adopted at 6 months old. I was pulled away from my native family and my culture. Through the years, I have tried to reconnect with my native family. Sometimes I feel like it's too late, and many times I feel like an outsider because I didn't learn my native tongue, nor did I follow cultural practices as a child. I support State Indian Family Protection Act because I have 3 children that deserve to know their roots, their native culture, and deserve to claim their native identity.
My name is Radi Hiram, and I belong to the Pueblo of Isleta. I grew up with present knowledge of the Federal Indian Child Welfare Act. Much of my knowledge came from meeting children my age who were failed by IFPA and state workers, friends and acquaintances I've made, whom all had stories of being adopted out. I had always considered them as being Native, but I know many of them had trouble claiming that identity. Their stories and placements were complex, but what was clear to see was that they were removed from their family and lost ties as a result. This is why I believe this Indian Family Protection Act is vital legislation.
My name is CARLAYNA Holiday, and I'm part of the Navajo Nation. I was taken from my family and placed in a group home. The only thing that kept me going was receiving a letter from my family. Today is a reminder of how much my family loved me, even though I felt so alone. During one of my placements, I attended a Navajo class. I would come home and not be able to share anything I learned or get help because no one understood our culture. When you truly love a child, you want what is best for them. And for Indigenous children, that means having the opportunity to be your whole self with culture, traditions, and the people you belong to.
Shenandad, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Heather Yazzie Kentachini. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation. When we say our children are sacred, we mean that in ceremonies, there are roles adults cannot perform. Those roles can only be done by our children because of their innocence, healing laughter, and growing minds. They are powerful. The Indian Family Protection Act protects that way of life and our ability to continually teach our children how important they are to us.
As beautifully stated by Veronica, one of our young people, they cannot be what they cannot see. Our children will be our protection and survivors of our tribal communities. Without these protections that are unique to tribal nations, to actively preserve the Indian family, maintain extended family relationships, and promote and provide cultural connections and participation for children in state care, we as Indian people cease to exist.